In this movie, we're going to add audio control functionality to our media player. If you're following along with the exercise files, we're in Chapter 9/09_04/begin/video player. We have the video player CS proj file open up in Blend and open up in Visual Studio. Looking at this project in Blend, we've got the volume controls canvas open, and we have two canvases named volume down button and volume up button. We also have one called mute button. Note that each of these has a corresponding fill element inside of it. We're going to hook 3 more button objects to these canvases. Also note the volume meter canvas. We have 10 volume segments. You'll notice these right here as we're selecting them. All named volume 1 through volume 10. We'll use these to display the state of the media element's volume property. Back in Visual Studio, the first thing we're going to do is to create 3 new button objects, one for volume up, one for volume down, and one for the mute button. To do this, we'll scroll down. And since this is a long line of code, we're going to go into full screen mode, which is Alt-Shift-Enter. This will give us a larger view of our code window. Now we're going to select the last button object we created, which was for the stop button in the last movie. We're going to type Shift-End to select this, hit Control-C, hit the End button, hit Control-Enter for a new line, and hit Control-V to paste this in. We'll hit Enter again, paste it again, Enter again, and paste it again. We've now created 3 new buttons, and we're going to change these to hook up the play-pause button, to hook up the volume up button, the volume down button, and the mute button. We'll scroll back to the left. We'll change the name of the objects we're looking for to be mute button, volume up button, and volume down button. Scrolling over, we'll change the lines to look for the corresponding fills. And the volume down button fill. And finally, we'll modify the name of the event handler methods. Mute button click, volume up button clicked, and volume down button clicked. Now scrolling back to the left and scrolling to the bottom of our file, we're going to add the 3 methods for our event handlers. To make this more efficient, we'll copy the play pause button clicked event handler declaration. We'll paste it in. We'll close bracket. And we'll do this 2 more times, since we need to add 3 methods. Now we'll change play pause to be mute, this play pause to be volume up, and this play pause to be volume down. Now we'll add the code to each of these handlers to modify the audio properties on media element. On mute, we'll change the isMuted property on media element. The isMuted property on media element is a boolean, and we want this button to toggle the value of the isMuted property, so we'll set the property to the opposite of itself. For volume up, we want to increase the value of the media element's volume property. The volume property is of type double and ranges from 0 to 1. So we're going to increment this value by 0.1. That way there will be 10 steps from the 0 value, which is equivalent to muted, to the highest value of 1, which is as loud as the media element can be. We'll now copy this line by hitting Shift Home and Control C. We'll paste it into the volume down button clicked handler, type in Control V, and we'll change the plus to minus. So in volume down, we'll decrement the volume by 0.1. Now when we run this application by pressing F5, now we'll note that the volume buttons and the mute button are interactive, and if we press them, they make the volume quieter and louder. However, the UI for the player is not updated. Notice that the mute icon isn't shown when we mute, and the volume down and volume up bars aren't changed. So now let's go back to Visual Studio and write the code to make those UI changes. We'll close the output window. Close the output window. In the mute button click handler, we're going to add code to check the isMuted property and show and hide the mute icon we saw earlier in Blend. So we'll check the isMuted property, add brackets. We'll call findName on the sender, and we'll search for mute icon. And we'll make the mute icon visible if we're muted. If we're not muted, in the else clause, we'll copy this line, we'll paste it in, and we'll set the visibility to collapsed. For volume, we're going to show and hide the volume wedges named Volume 1 through Volume 10 that we saw in Blend. In order to do this, we'll calculate which volume wedge has changed based on the value of the volume property. To do this, we'll scroll down to the Volume Up button clicked handler, put our cursor at the end, hit Enter to add a new line. We'll call findName on the sender. Here we want to search for the name of the volume wedge that corresponds to the value of the volume that we just set. To do this, we'll type volume. We'll concatenate the string with the number 1 through 10 based on the value of the current volume. Because volume is of type double, it will have greater precision than just 0.1. So we need to round this down so that we just get a single digit. So we'll search for volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, etc. To round, we'll use the math.round method, and we'll round the volume multiplied by 10. So the volume multiplied by 10 will be a number between 0 and 10, which is very close to what we want past the end of findName. Then we'll round that so that it is a whole integer. So this will give us back a volume wedge, and now we'll make it visible. Now we'll scroll back to the left, and we'll add similar logic inside the volume down button clicked handler. For volume down, we don't have a wedge named volume 0, so we need to guard against the volume being exactly 0. To do this, we'll add a line at the beginning of the method, we'll add an if check, and we'll verify that the media element's volume is greater than 0. Inside this if block, we'll copy the line we wrote in the volume up button clicked handler by selecting the line using the Shift End keyboard command. We'll hit Control C to copy it. We'll scroll back, hit Control V to paste it into our if clause. And now instead of making this visible, we'll hide this wedge in volume down. Now when we run this application, we'll see the mute icon show up when we mute the audio. And we'll see the wedges go up as we increase and decrease the volume. In the next movie, we're going to move the position thumb based on media playback progress.